The fifth. In front of more than 200 invited guests from the extended Prescott family, my head was slammed hard against the floor by my own mother-in-law. She forced me to use my tongue to lick clean a pair of her shoes that were covered in filthy mud. And the man I had called my husband for 4 long years, instead of running to protect me, grabbed a silver steak fork and plunged it right into my left eye. All because I dared to resist and shed a tear. They laughed, mocking and humiliating a poor orphan girl they accused of just leeching off a wealthy family. Completely unaware that at the exact second fresh blood poured down my cheek, I fumbled for my phone and sent a single text message. "Dad, your daughter is being abused." 15 minutes later, 100 black attack helicopters blacked out the sky, completely wiping out that elite gated estate in Greenwich, Connecticut, obliterating the Prescott family's multi-million-dollar mahogany doors, and turning that arrogant family into a pile of ashes. My father, the man who held absolute control over the largest financial conglomerate in North America, stepped out of the lead helicopter. And now you sit here broken, filthy, and trembling with fear in front of me. Let's take a walk down memory lane, shall we, mother-in-law? Lauren. Please. I'm begging you. I'm bowing down to you. It's all in the past. Your eye has been treated, hasn't it? Forgive me. Let the Prescott family go. I know I was wrong. I was blind and didn't recognize who you truly were. Keep that fork down, shut your mouth. Don't say my name with that disgusting tone. And my eye hasn't been treated at all. This is a prosthetic. My real eye was gouged out by your precious son. Take a good look. Does this silver fork look familiar? It's the custom-made piece you ordered straight from Switzerland to serve guests at your 60th birthday bash. Isn't it? I picked it up from the puddle of my own blood. Kept it all this time. You say you were blind? You weren't blind. You just looked down on people. Don't rush to cry. Today we have all the time in the world in this basement. On my family's private estate, no one will hear your screams. Just like not a single one of your 200 guests heard my screams for help that day. Honey, I was drunk that day. I lost control. Brad only acted stupidly out of pity for me. For the sake of your 4 years of marriage. For the sake of the soup I once made you when you were sick. Soup? You have the nerve to bring up the leftover slop you ordered the maid to pour boiling water over, before throwing it on the table for me to eat when I had a 102-degree fever? Do you really think my memory is that bad? Sit up straight. I want you to open your eyes wide and listen to me retell the events of that day. The day you thought you stood at the pinnacle of high society, crushing a poor ant into the mud. The fifth. I remember it was pouring rain. You stepped out of your rented Rolls-Royce and stepped right into a mud puddle in front of the mansion's foyer. You were furious, cursing out the chauffeur, screaming at the security guards. And when I had just run out of the kitchen, sweating buckets because I had to prepare 60 servings of lobster bisque and Wagyu steak with my own bare hands just for you, you looked at me like I was a pile of garbage. Do you remember what you said? I don't remember. I misspoke. Let me jog your memory. You pointed at my face with your finger, the one wearing that fake emerald ring, and screamed at the top of your lungs in the middle of the foyer. You little tramp. Because you brought your trailer park curse into my home, I stepped in mud. Get on your knees and lick it clean. Dozens of your relatives were standing around us. They covered their mouths, laughing at me, pointing fingers. I stood frozen in place, my hands still gripping a kitchen rag. I looked over at Brad. The man for whom I willingly threw away my identity as the sole heiress of a Wall Street billionaire empire, defying my parents. He stood right next to you. I used to think he would step forward, grab my hand, and say, "Mom, my wife won't do this." But no. Do you remember what he did? Brad. He was wrong. He was possessed by the devil. He stepped forward, snatched the rag from my hand, and threw it to the floor. He smiled a cynical, sadistic smile, a bastard smile that, even now when I think about it, makes me want to rip his face off. He said, "Get on your knees and clean my mother's shoes. Don't embarrass the Prescott family. Didn't the foster care system teach you how to respect your elders? Foster care system. That was the cover I created to test him. I wanted someone who loved me, not for my father's multi-billion-dollar empire. It turns out, the moment you people thought I was just a lonely orphan, you revealed your true, demonic nature. I shook my head. I said I wouldn't do it. Lauren, it hurts. These chains on my wrists hurt so much. Can you loosen them a bit? It hurts. You haven't felt a fraction of a fingernail's worth of the pain I had to endure. Shut up and listen to the rest. When I refused, you lunged at me. A 60-year-old woman acting like a high society matriarch suddenly turned into a feral alley cat. You grabbed me by the hair, yanking it back until my scalp went numb. The entire crowd cheered with excitement, as if they were watching a gladiator match. You slammed my head hard against the freezing marble floor. You shoved your stinking, mud-covered heel right into my mouth. The smell of gutter mud pierced my nose. Open your mouth. Trash like you is lucky to even set foot in the Prescott estate. How dare you defy me? That's what you screamed. Oh God, I'm begging you. I'm on my knees. I was blind. I'm evil. Just kill me. But please don't torture me like this. Killing you is too easy. Death is freedom. I want you to live. Live to watch the things you were most proud of turn to dust. Back to that moment. I struggled. Even though I was weak, I managed to swat your hand away. You lost your balance and fell backward. You just landed on your butt on the plush carpet. Not a single inch of your skin was scratched. But Brad immediately lunged. He helped you up and then turned to look at me as if he wanted to eat me alive. He slapped me so hard I saw stars. Smack. My ears rang. Blood poured from my nose. He roared. You dare strike my mother? You uneducated ghetto trash. He loves his mother. He loves me. That's why he lost his mind. Loves you? He was just putting on a show to win your favor, so you'd hand over the CEO position of your family's crumbling architectural firm to him. He kicked me in the stomach repeatedly. The agonizing pain made me curl up on the floor. While kicking me, he grabbed a silver fork from the nearby banquet table. I looked at him, my tears mixing with the blood from my nose. I asked him, Brad, you promised you would protect me for the rest of my life. Do you know what his answer was? He said, a promise to a stray dog is worthless. And then he plunged that fork straight down. No! Stop talking, I don't want to hear it. There was so much blood. Squelch. The sound of bone cracking echoed right inside my skull. That silver fork buried deep into my left eye. Darkness instantly swallowed half my world, accompanied by an excruciating pain that didn't arrive slowly, but instantly ripped through my nerves and scorched my brain. I screamed with a voice that tore my throat. A scream I still hear in my nightmares to this day. I clutched my face, hot blood gushing through my fingers, soaking the white dress I sewed myself to attend your birthday party. The entire foyer of 200 people fell dead silent. They were terrified, but not a single one stepped forward. Not a single call for an ambulance was made. I was scared back then. I was scared too. I told Brad to stop. You told him to stop? How laughable. I heard you crystal clear. Your shrill voice echoed across the foyer. Security, drag this crazy bitch to the kitchen and lock her up. Don't let her blood ruin my party's foyer. Call Dr. Trenton to come give her an anesthetic. Nobody dare call the cops. After the party's over, I'll deal with her. Those were your exact orders. 2 massive security guards stepped forward, grabbed my arms, and dragged me across the floor. I was in so much agony I didn't even have the strength to thrash. My right eye was blurred with tears and sheer despair. In those moments being dragged down that dark hallway, I suddenly realized how foolish I had been. I had traded my family, my father's protection, the status of Lauren Winchester, the billionaire heiress, just to become a stray dog for people to stomp on. Miss Winchester, please let us go. We didn't know you were the heiress to the Winchester Empire. If we knew, even if we had 9 lives, we wouldn't dare. Right. If you knew, you would be the ones licking my shoes, not forcing me to lick yours. This goddamn class discrimination of yours is what killed whatever humanity you had left. When I was thrown into that dark, freezing storage room, my blood was still pouring. The hole in my left eye throbbed down to the bone marrow. I thought I was going to bleed to death, but pure, unadulterated hatred kept me conscious. I reached into my apron pocket and pulled out my beat-up phone. My hands were slick with my own fresh blood. Trembling, I searched for the number I had blocked for 4 years. The number of the most powerful man. The man who slapped me and said, "Get out of this house. If people abuse you, don't you ever come crawling back to your father." Oh God, that call. That message. I didn't have the energy to call. I just typed a short text on a screen blurred by blood. Dad, your daughter is being abused. After hitting send, I passed out. I lay on the damp tile floor, hearing the faint sound of classical music drifting from the foyer. You all were still eating, drinking, and toasting each other. Meanwhile, I lay dying in the dark with my eye gouged out. Did you think you could just sweep this under the rug with hush money? Just like how you silenced all those other poor people. But Eleanor, do you know how terrifying the sound of 100 military attack helicopters taking off simultaneously is? It's apocalyptic. Like Judgment Day. The wind blew the party tents completely away. The glass windows shattered into pieces. Dozens of black-clad tactical shooters dropped from the sky. Exactly 15 minutes from the moment I sent that text, the sky above your heads turned pitch black. The Winchester family doesn't know the meaning of the word, wait. The sound of the rotors ripped through the night. The searchlights from the helicopters aimed straight down like the light of the Grim Reaper. I lay in the storage room hearing your panicked screams, hearing Brad's hysterical cries as assault rifles were pointed directly at his head. The storage room door was blown open, blinding light flooded in, and a gray-haired man in a black tailored suit stepped in, surrounded by dozens of elite bodyguards. My father. He saw me lying in a pool of blood. Half my face destroyed. Do you know what my father said? He gave the order to kill everyone. He dropped to his knees. The hands that routinely signed multi-billion-dollar corporate acquisitions trembled as they pulled my cold body into his arms. He didn't cry, but the murderous aura radiating from him was enough to freeze the entire Prescott family. He roared, "Who dared to do this? Raze this place to the ground. Annihilate the entire Prescott family. Anyone who stands in the way, kill without mercy." And then, everything happened exactly as he commanded. That multi-million-dollar mansion was leveled by armored vehicles that very night. All the Prescott family's bank accounts, stocks, and companies were frozen and wiped off the stock exchange in exactly 5 minutes. Your entire family was kneeling on the lawn, holding their heads, weeping like dogs who lost their master. Everything was gone. The Prescott family legacy, built over generations, turned to dust overnight. My son, Brad. Where is he? What did you do to him? You still have the mind to worry about your precious son? Don't worry, Brad is right in the next room. He's currently enjoying a punishment I prepared specifically for him. Do you hear those muffled groans echoing from behind that wall? That's him. I haven't let him die yet. The game has just begun. Did you think losing your wealth and company was enough? The humiliation, the physical torture, the eternal darkness in one of my eyes. You and your son have to pay for all of that with the rest of your lives. Now sit quietly. We're going to rewind to the beginning. From the day I foolishly took off my designer dresses and put on cheap thrift store clothes to enter the Prescott family. I will show you exactly how you dug your own grave. Step by step. Why are you crying? Your tears right now are so cheap and foul. I'd rather smell the mud from that day. Are you regretting the destruction of the Prescott fortune, or regretting that you messed with a daughter of the Winchester family? Definitely, the latter. Because if I truly was just a poor orphan girl like you thought, my corpse would have been wrapped in a plastic tarp and thrown into a toxic river in New Jersey to destroy the evidence, right? Look at me. Do you know why? As the sole heir to an empire that controls half the North American economy, I had to lower myself to marry into your trashy family? I didn't know. I didn't know. Why did you do it? You are a billionaire's daughter. You have no shortage of worthy men. No shortage of royalty kneeling at your feet. Why did you pretend to be poor to trick Brad? If you had said from the beginning that you were a Winchester, the Prescott family would have rolled out the red carpet. We would have worshipped the ground you walked on. You tricked us. You trapped us. Trapped? You are truly a piece of work. Down to this very second, chained in a basement, without seeing the sun, your rotten, materialistic, status-obsessed mindset hasn't changed. Rolled out the red carpet. That is exactly why I was sick of the people who approached me. Ever since I was born, my world was paved with solid gold. My breakfast was prepped by Michelin star chefs. The clothes I wore were exclusive, one of one couture. With every wave of my hand, dozens of bodyguards would bow. But do you know what the most terrifying thing about that world is? There is no sincerity. The men who approached me, in their eyes, there were only numbers, contracts, mergers, prime real estate, and my father's power. I wanted pure love. Foolishly, I believed that if I shed the golden halo of the Winchester family, I would find a man who loved me for me. Loved just plain Lauren, not the massive corporate fortune standing behind me. Brad really loved you. In the early days, how did he treat you? Have you forgotten? He dared to defy me to marry you. He knelt in the pouring rain, begging me to let him marry a poor orphan girl. Don't you remember all that? He truly loved you. Kneeling in the rain. Shut your mouth. That did happen. But now, thinking back, it makes me sick like a cheap soap opera. You remember the day I met your son? I was playing the role of a broke college student working part-time at a rundown diner in Brooklyn. Brad walked in, wearing a sharp suit, acting like a hotshot young CEO. A drunk customer intentionally harassed me, and your son stepped up to play the hero, saving the damsel in distress. He took off his suit jacket and draped it over me. He yelled at the guy. Then he drove me back to my tiny apartment in the pouring rain. Oh, how sweet the words he spoke were. A person's background doesn't determine their worth. I love your kindness and resilience. I was a naive kid used to living in an ivory tower, and I melted at those empty words. I loved him secretly and fiercely fought against my father's strict rejection. My father said human nature is only revealed when dealing with money and power. I didn't believe him. I ran away from home empty-handed to prove to my dad that true love existed. Then he really did protect you back then. If he was a gold digger, he would have dumped you the second he found out you were an orphan. Why can't you see the good side? You're too cruel, Lauren. You destroyed his entire life. You're so stupid. You think your son was so noble. Brad didn't stay with me because he loved me, but because of the fragile ego of an insecure man who wanted to play the savior. He was just the director of a tiny, irrelevant architectural firm that had to fight tooth and nail for scraps. He was always being stepped on by men richer than him. So when he met a girl who looked weaker and poorer than him, his masculine ego was satisfied. He wanted an obedient little doll who would be grateful and worship him like a god. Kneeling in the rain begging you to let him marry me? That was just because I was beautiful, submissive, and didn't demand a massive diamond ring or ask for a sports car like the rich girls you tried to set him up with. It was a highly profitable bargain. He got the title of a loyal man while saving a fortune. Why didn't he play the role to the end, then? You're slandering him. You're projecting your sick thoughts onto my son. Slandering? Then how do you explain the first day he brought me to your house? The Prescott estate in Greenwich. In the eyes of normal people, it might look huge, but to me, it was the size of my father's garage. Even so, I kept my head down, carrying a cheap fruit basket, and walked up to the gates. You sat arrogantly in your mahogany chair. Your fingers played with a fake pearl necklace, which, by the way, I knew instantly was cheap knockoff garbage. You looked me up and down with eyes as sharp as razor blades. Do you remember what you said to me that afternoon? I was just asking about your background. Asking if you were fit for the Prescott family. That is a mother's responsibility. A mother's responsibility. You swatted away the teacup I had just poured for you. The boiling tea splashed all over the back of my hand, leaving it red and swollen. You pointed at my face, your voice shrill and cracking. The Prescotts are blue bloods who have been in business for generations. A pathetic trailer park girl like you dreaming of sitting on the throne? Look at yourself. Is there a single thing on your body that costs more than $10? Stepping into this house as a daughter-in-law. What can you offer to help Brad's career? Your only asset is this poverty-stricken face. My hand was blistering with pain, but I held back my tears and looked at Brad. Do you know what your son did? He sat in silence. He picked up another cup of tea, took a sip, and said quietly, "Mom, don't be mad. Lauren is poor, but she knows her place. Just let me marry her to do the chores and serve you. Hiring maids nowadays is expensive, and they steal. That was your son's great love. Turns out, he defied you to marry me just to give you a free maid and obedient breeding machine. But ultimately, I agreed to let you into my house, didn't I? I didn't kick you out. I gave you the title of Mrs. Prescott. What more do you want? An orphan like you getting to marry into wealth. You should have been thanking God. Agreed to let me in? Yes, you agreed. Because after your cheap calculations, you realized that by marrying an orphan like me, you wouldn't have to pay a dime for a wedding. No need to host a reception at the Plaza Hotel. No fear of the bride's family demanding a prenuptial division of assets, a highly profitable business transaction. And I, because of my stubborn desire to prove true love existed, bit my lip and endured all the humiliation. I dragged myself through the mud, hid my true identity, and rejected all help from the Winchester family just to step into the living hell created by you and your son. Now, every time I remember the mask of poverty I painstakingly wore for 4 years, I feel disgusted with myself. If only that day I had ripped off my mask and slapped your face with stacks of $100 bills. You would have been on your knees licking my shoes from our very first meeting. We wouldn't have had to wait until your 60th birthday party, would we? Exactly. If you had told us earlier, none of this would have happened. This is all your fault. You tricked us. You set a trap for us to make a mistake. You are a demon, still stubbornly blaming others. A demon. Fine, if you call me a demon, then I will show you what true hell looks like. Savor it slowly. Because our journey is still very long. Cry loud, groan hard. Because soon, when I recount my first days as a daughter-in-law, you will realize how utterly repulsive your cruelty was. Are you thirsty? There's a little puddle of water leaking from the pipe on the floor. You can bend down and lap it up like a dog. Crying drains a lot of fluids. Oh, you don't want to drink? Then open your ears wide and listen to the rest. The wedding day. You called it a wedding. It was a public exhibition of humiliation. 60 banquet tables. All of them were your family's guests, Brad's business partners, and your socialite friends. Not a single shadow from the bride's side. You bragged to everyone that I was a stray orphan the Prescotts took in out of pity. Do you remember the wedding dress I wore that day, Eleanor? I bought that dress for you. It was brand new. Brand new. A wedding dress bought off a clearance rack at a rundown strip mall for $20. The cheap lace was so stiff it scratched my skin until it bled. Meanwhile, Brad wore a custom-tailored Italian suit worth tens of thousands. You yourself wore heavy gold jewelry and a velvet evening gown, strutting around the foyer showing off. And me? You forced me to stand at the door, greeting guests for 4 straight hours in borrowed high heels that were 2 sizes too small. My feet were swollen and bleeding. I was starving. When I quietly grabbed a tiny hors d'oeuvre from a table, you lunged at me and slapped my hand hard. You said, "You starving ghetto trash. The guests are watching. Don't embarrass the Prescott name. Stand straight and smile." That's how rich people do things. I just wanted to teach you how to be a good wife. Teaching a wife from the first day she steps into the house. The older generations always did that. I didn't mean any harm. Didn't mean any harm. The bastardized patriarchal logic you use to justify the cruelty baked into your bones. Teaching the daughter-in-law. The morning after the wedding, you barged into the bridal suite at 4:00 a.m. 4:00 a.m. You ripped the blankets off me and Brad. You dragged me out of bed while I was only wearing a flimsy nightgown. You screamed. "This family does not sleep in. The rooster hasn't even crowed. You need to be up making breakfast for the whole family. Starting today, all the maids are fired. All the chores in this 5,000 square foot estate must be done by you." Brad was still sleepy. He turned to face the wall, pulled the blanket over his head, and said, "Just do what Mom says. This house needs a woman's touch to feel warm. Chores are a woman's job. You eat my food, live in my house. If you do some chores, what's the problem? I did that so you would learn to appreciate what you had. Just a little housework." A little housework? You call scrubbing mountains of laundry for the entire family by hand in the middle of a freezing northeast winter a little housework? That mansion had a top-of-the-line front-loading washer. But you padlocked the laundry room door, threw an aluminum basin into the yard, and said, "The machine will ruin mine and my son's designer clothes. You trailer trash girls have rough hands. Wash them by hand so they get clean." My hands. A pair of hands that used to be soaked in royal jelly milk and rose essential oil every day for skincare. A pair of hands that once played the piano at grand opera houses in Europe. Those hands were ruined, peeling, and cracked bloody because of the freezing water in the dead of winter. During those times, I didn't even dare look at my own hands. I washed clothes while swallowing my tears. I bit my lip and endured it all, because I was still blind, believing my sacrifices would melt Brad's heart. Foolish. So utterly foolish. All daughters-in-law have to do that. You were just used to living in luxury, that's why you felt like you were suffering. Other people's daughters do it, and nobody dies. I suffered serving my mother-in-law too, but I never complained. Stop using your own trampled past to justify stomping on others. You suffered, so you wanted someone else to die suffering with you. Garbage mentality. And what about the food? During the Prescott family gatherings, your relatives filled the house. Dozens of people sat at the massive dining table, eating high-end cuisine Wagyu beef and lobster. Meanwhile, you forced me to lay a small mat in the corner of the pantry, next to the trash can. You said women on their periods were dirty and couldn't sit at the same table because it would bring bad luck to the family. I had to hold a bowl of leftover rice, with a few scraps of meat and murky broth that you told the maids to set aside. I, the heir to a trillion-dollar empire, had to sit gnawing on leftover bones next to the trash can in your house. Tell me again, was that teaching the daughter-in-law or stripping a human being of their dignity down to the lowest level? Brad. Help me. I don't want to hear this anymore. This demon is crazy. Brad can't save you. He's too busy trying to keep his own pathetic life intact in the next room. Why are you calling him? When I was banished to the kitchen to eat scraps, I also looked at him for help. Exactly like you're doing now. What did your son do? He picked up the best cut of beef, put it in your bowl, and then turned to smile and suck up to his uncles. When the party ended, and everyone went home, I cleaned up the mountains of dirty dishes until 3:00 inches the morning. My spine felt like it was going to snap. I crawled back to our bedroom. Your son was lying there playing video games on a soft mattress. I asked him, "Why didn't you defend me even a little? I am your wife." Do you know what he said? He slapped me, hard. He emphasized every single word, "My mother is everything." In this house, My mother's word is law. You are just a parasite leeching off my family to change your fate. What right do you have to demand respect? That slap still burns on my face. It shattered my fairy tale illusion of love. That slap dragged me to the lowest depths of hell. I didn't tell him to hit you. Husband and wife fight, it's normal. If you don't know how to yield to your husband, it's natural he hits you. Men build the house, women build the family. If you keep fighting back, who can stand building a family? Your family is a bloody prison soaked in tears. You let your son commit domestic violence and turned him into a cold-blooded monster. Then you blame the victim for not knowing how to be patient. But the most laughable thing is that even while being trampled like an animal, I never once had the thought of calling my dad. Stubbornness, youth, the desire to escape the massive shadow of the Winchester family held me back. I convinced myself I had to be strong. I had to endure. I had to use sincerity to change the stone hearts of you monsters. I kept my head down, scrubbing every tile, cooking every meal, boiling a basin of water to wash your feet every night. But the more I bowed my head, the harder you stomped on me. You didn't just want me to be a maid. You wanted to break my entire sense of self-worth, turning me into a submissive slave forever. And that brings us to the invisible cage built by you and your son. Do you want to hear the rest? Oh, great mother-in-law, why is your face so pale? Heart hurting? When you were cursing me out and forcing me to eat scraps, you looked extremely healthy and vibrant. Lift your head. Your eyes need to look straight into mine. Look into this crystal prosthetic eye to see exactly how you destroyed me. After those first days of teaching, you saw that I was obedient. Never talked back a single word. So you started escalating your cruelty to a terrifying level of psychological manipulation. You were terrified I would run away. You were afraid that if I went out and socialized, I would grow wings and fly, leaving your 5,000 square foot mansion with no one to serve and clean it. So you and your son started building an invisible cage. What cage? I gave you good food and decent clothes. You lived in a huge house. I forbade you from going out because I was afraid you'd mix with bad crowds, who could ruin the family's reputation. What mother doesn't worry about her kids? Worry about her kids. You confiscated my phone. You searched my bag. You took my ID, my passport, and all my identifying documents and locked them in your safe. You forced Brad to forbid me from working at the architectural firm where I had passed the interview before we got married. You poured poison into his ear. If women work and have their own money, they'll become corrupted. She'll cheat on you behind your back without you knowing. Just lock her in the house and hold all her ATM cards. If she doesn't have a single cent, even if you gave her gold, she wouldn't dare leave. He followed your words without arguing. I went from a free, educated girl to being completely severed from all social connections. Parents, friends, co-workers. No one could reach me. Every morning, Brad threw exactly $10 onto the table. $10, Eleanor. For 3 family meals in an incredibly expensive area, like Greenwich, Connecticut. I just wanted to train you to be frugal. To know how to manage family finances. If women are wasteful and get too much money, they just give it to other men. How is $10 not enough? I had to wake up before dawn. Walk 3 miles to a wholesale market in the Bronx, buying wilted vegetables and cheap dead fish to cook to your taste. If the meal that day had no meat, you would throw a bowl of hot soup at me. If there was meat, you cursed me for being wasteful and squandering your son's hard-earned money. Once, I had a high fever, 102 degrees, lying on the kitchen floor. I asked you for a few bucks to buy some Tylenol. You walked by and kicked me in the ribs. Hard. You threw a bowl of leftover oatmeal from the morning, told the maid to pour boiling water over it, and tossed it on the table. Eat it while it's hot. Buying medicine is a waste of money. Laying there groaning, who are you performing for? Hurry up and mop the stairs. I ate that watery, tasteless oatmeal spoonful by spoonful, chewing it along with salty tears. The fever was burning my skin, but the coldness of your heart was 100 times more terrifying. Lauren, I was wrong. I was stupid. Back then, I thought country girls like you were tough, a little sickness. And you'd be fine in a few days. I didn't know. You didn't know? Or did you intentionally want me to die slowly? But the most bastardly thing wasn't about the money. The most bastardly thing was Brad's high-level deception. He always bragged that he carried the weight of the family, that his architecture firm was built with his own 2 hands, that he kept me like a parasite. But what was the reality? His firm was on the verge of bankruptcy because no one wanted to buy his garbage designs. He begged clients out of pure desperation. And I, out of pity for him, out of pity for this family, secretly stayed up late using a dusty, ancient computer in the storage room, fighting off sleep until my nose bled, completely redrawing the blueprints for a massive commercial building project for him. I hid my name and emailed it to him secretly so he could present it to the client. Those commercial building designs were yours? Impossible. Brad said he stayed up for days drawing them. That Japanese client praised him to the heavens and paid $2 million cash for the rights. He is a genius. Genius. A useless man who stole the brainchild of his own wife. He knew clearly that design was my style. From our college days, when I was hiding my identity, he was already familiar with my drafting style. But he stole it blatantly. He brought home a $2 million check and threw a massive celebration party. You bragged to all the neighbors that your son was the #1 architect bringing glory to the family. Meanwhile, to me, the person who created that masterpiece, you shoved me outside to scrub the garage floor. While the guests were toasting and celebrating, I quietly pulled Brad aside and asked him about the design. He grabbed my wrist until it bruised. He whispered in my ear with a threatening tone. "Stop daydreaming. An unemployed parasite like you could draw this? If you dare open your mouth, I'll kick you out of this house without a dime so you can starve on the streets." No, impossible. My son is highly educated and has a degree. Why would he steal from you? You're lying to humiliate him, aren't you? Why would I humiliate him? My father bought out that Japanese client's firm in exactly 3 minutes and pulled all the original files for review. The IP address of the email sent from the dusty computer in your storage room is right there in black and white. You too mentally manipulated me. You planted the idea in my head that I was useless. That without the Prescott family, I would die in some street corner. You used beatings and verbal abuse every day to mold me into a soulless doll. Every time I tried to fight back, Brad would go back to playing the angel. He'd pretend to hug me, buy me a cheap $10 hair clip from the pharmacy, and cry, saying, "My job is so stressful. I love you, but my mom is just strict. You have to be patient." One playing bad cop, one playing good cop. You two worked together so flawlessly, like a theater troupe of psychopaths. That invisible cage choked me to the point where I started believing I actually was at fault, that I deserved to be treated like that. Lauren, I'm sorry. I'm begging for forgiveness. I was greedy. I was selfish. I was too cruel to you. But no matter what, for 4 years we lived under the same roof. I'm old, I don't have much time left. If you lock me up here and beat me like this, I'll die. Die? How could you get such an easy privilege? I already told you, death is too luxurious a blessing. I want you to live to feel every second of this torture. You feel scared when your freedom is stripped away and you're locked in a basement, right? That is nothing compared to the 4 years of my shining youth buried in your kitchen. 4 years. I forgot how to smile, forgot how to lift my head. But that invisible cage was just the warm-up. Your cruelty didn't stop at slave labor or intellectual theft. You wanted to trample my dignity publicly, in front of hundreds of eyes, to push me into the deepest abyss of humiliation. And that brings us to the fateful birthday party. The 60th birthday party that became the graveyard for the Prescott family's arrogance. Wipe your tears. Open your old eyes wide. We are entering the most dramatic part now. The smell of blood and humiliation on the 5th is waiting for you to relive it. Wipe your tears. This pathetic face of yours can't cover up the evil ingrained in your body. Let's continue with the 5th. Your 60th birthday. Wow, a very important day for the prestigious Prescott family. Let me remember, how long did you plan that day? A full month, right? You wanted the grandest, most lavish party in all of Greenwich to shut the mouths of your show-off old money friends. But instead of spending money to hire professional event planners, you chose to extort the labor of your daughter-in-law. Do you remember your demands for me, Eleanor? I just thought that if someone from the family cooked the food themselves, it would be more sincere. Home-cooked food is always cleaner and more meaningful than catered. The older generations say a filial daughter-in-law must prepare her mother-in-law's birthday feast herself. I just wanted to be proud in front of my relatives for having a hardworking daughter-in-law. Hardworking. Sincere. You use those beautiful words to cover up your cheapness and ruthless exploitation. 200 guests. A 6-course royal buffet. You demanded the menu include lobster bisque, matsutake mushroom abalone, baked Alaskan crab, and Wagyu tomahawk steaks. You left all those premium ingredients for me to handle entirely alone. Alone. You gave the 3 maids the week off with the excuse that you were afraid outsiders would steal things when there were so many guests. You locked me in that sweltering kitchen from 5:00 a.m. to midnight for a full week. I had to scrub every piece of seafood, peel mushrooms, and boil stock for days until I had massive black bags under my eyes, and my hands and feet were blistered from boiling water and hot oil. Brad helped you. He bought the ingredients for you. He also felt bad seeing you stay up late and wake up early. Brad helped me. He helped me by standing at the kitchen door with his hands on his hips, smoking a cigar, and rushing me. Work faster, don't embarrass Mom. Scrub that lobster clean, Mom hates the smell of fish. That was how he helped me. For a week, I slept no more than 3 hours a day. My back ached like it was breaking. My fingers, from chopping so much meat, cramped up so badly I couldn't even hold a spoon. But I still bit my lip and did it. I did it because I still naively thought that if I poured all my energy into this party, you would acknowledge me. Your relatives would stop degrading me. I used my hands that once played the piano in European opera houses, hands my father guarded like national treasures to craft a banquet for your rotten family to show off. But at the party, everyone praised the food. Everyone was amazed by your lobster bisque. I was very proud too. Proud? Were you proud of me, or were you proud that you successfully turned a girl into a mule for you to ride? Don't forget what you did on the morning before the party started. Guests were arriving. Everyone was wearing silk and sparkling jewelry. After finishing everything in the kitchen, I asked you for permission to go upstairs and change. 4 years as a daughter-in-law, you never let me buy a new piece of clothing. I had to stay up 3 nights in a row, working under a dim light in the storage room on a rusty sewing machine. To sew myself a white dress from leftover fabric, I begged off a tailor down the street. Even though it was just scrap fabric, with my design skills, that dress still radiated pure elegance. When I came down the stairs, you were standing there chatting with the aunts from your side of the family. You saw me. Do you remember the look in your eyes then, Eleanor? I saw you wearing white. A birthday party is strictly against the color white. It's bad luck, like mourning clothes. I was just reminding you. Reminding? Stop lying. The look in your eyes then was blind jealousy. You were jealous because the daughter-in-law you tortured for 4 years, who didn't eat enough and wore rags, suddenly, when wearing a dress she sewed herself, shined so brightly she outshone all your tacky children and relatives. Even though they were layered in knockoff designer gear, you couldn't accept the fact that I was prettier than your own daughter, standing out more than you on your special day. You lunged forward and yanked my sleeve so hard the fragile stitching ripped. You hissed through your teeth, loud enough for the women around you to hear, "Are you wearing this garbage to curse me to die quickly? A birthday party and you wear white like mourning clothes? You uneducated tramp. The old customs are like that." Lauren, I'm old. I was afraid of bad omens. I didn't mean anything by it. I just wanted you to change clothes. Change clothes? Where would I get other clothes besides the dingy, patched-up loungewear you threw at me? Scolding me wasn't enough. You intentionally spilled a glass of blood-red wine right onto my chest. A dark red stain ruined my white dress. You fake-covered your mouth and screamed, "Oh my, I'm so clumsy." Well, you just go back to the kitchen and clean up. Don't come out to the main foyer. The guests will laugh at the Prescott family if they see you looking like a mess. You banished me from my own party. You turned me into the invisible maid in my own house. I had to put on a yellowed apron to cover the stain, go back to the sweltering kitchen, and ladle out bowl after bowl of soup to be served to your relatives laughing joyfully out there. Do you know what it feels like to be rejected by your own family? Hidden away like embarrassing trash. Lauren, I was wrong. I was so wrong. I was jealous of your beauty. I was afraid you would stand out. I was afraid the guests would laugh at me because the daughter-in-law outshone the mother-in-law. It was my obsession with status. Forgive this shallow old woman. Shallow, wasn't it? It was a calculated evil. You intentionally isolated me, intentionally humiliated me so I would understand that in that house, I would forever be at the lowest caste. You wanted me to live with my head bowed. But Eleanor, your calculations were indeed very precise. You just misjudged the limit of my patience. The oppression endured for 4 years, combined with the frustration in the kitchen that day, created a volcano ready to erupt. And you, with your arrogance and dictatorial nature, lit the fuse of that bomb with your own hands. That fateful birthday party. Not only did you kill my last remaining ounce of love for Brad, but you threw open the gates of hell and invited destruction upon the entire Prescott family. Now, close your eyes. Let me take you back to the moment in the foyer. The moment when your muddy shoe crushed my dignity. It was raining that afternoon. A thunderstorm blackened the sky. The main foyer glittered under the grand crystal chandelier. Over 200 guests were seated. Classical music played softly. You stepped out of the rented Rolls-Royce in a hurry to show off. Shielded by a black umbrella, looking as arrogant as a queen. But unfortunately for you, a mud puddle dug up by a catering truck's tires at the front gate hadn't been cleaned up, ruining your grand entrance. The heel of your crystal-studded Jimmy Choo shoe, which you bragged was a designer import from France, even though I knew perfectly well it was a super fake from Canal Street, sank right into the filthy mud. That shoe was very precious to me. It was a birthday gift from Brad. I cherished it. That's why I lost control. I accidentally lost control. Don't cover up the truth. You weren't mad because you cared about the shoe, but because you felt your facade of luxury was tainted in front of hundreds of guests. You stormed into the foyer. Mud dripped from your shoe onto the pristine white marble floor. The entire lobby suddenly went dead silent, staring at you. Your face flushed red with embarrassment. And right at that moment, I stumbled in carrying a tray of lobster bisque from the kitchen. Sweat soaked my forehead, my hair was a mess. My apron wrinkled. When you saw me, your eyes lit up as if you'd found a life preserver, a trash can to vent your embarrassment and rage. No. I didn't mean it like that. I just told you to wipe it. I told you to get a mop to clean the floor. I didn't tell you to lick it. Even at this point, you still dared to deny it. I remember every word, every twitch of your brow that day. You stood in the middle of the foyer, pointing at my face with your fake jade ring. Your voice shrieked over the music. You little tramp. Because you brought your trailer park curse into my home, I stepped in mud. Get on your knees and lick it clean. Lick it clean. Those were the words you used. Not wipe, but lick. 200 guests gasped. The aunts and uncles from your family started whispering. I stood frozen, the soup tray in my hands trembling violently. I was too angry back then, I lost my mind. The alcohol, plus the instigation from my friends. I felt pressured to show my authority and teach my daughter-in-law in front of the relatives. I misspoke. Misspoke? Pressured to teach the daughter-in-law? I scanned the room. The faces of the Prescott family. People who claimed to be intellectuals, respected members of society. Your second aunt sneered. See? Bring a ghetto girl in as a daughter-in-law, and this is what happens. The guests are waiting, and she just stands there like an idiot. Useless. Your fourth uncle chimed in, the Prescott family has manners. If the mother-in-law gives an order, the daughter-in-law obeys. Get on your knees and clean it. What are you waiting for? Have some respect. A mob of people grouping up to trample a weak human being to satisfy their megalomania. They used the guise of family education and filial piety to mask group cruelty. The soup tray in my hands crashed to the floor, shattering into pieces. Every drop of that bisque splattered everywhere. Lauren. Please, stop talking. Your description makes me disgusted with myself. I really am a demon. I admit I am a demon. You admit it? Does that change what you did? When I shook my head and refused, you didn't let it go. Your pride was bruised when a lowly daughter-in-law dared to disobey your orders in public. You lunged at me. The hem of your velvet gown swept the floor. You grabbed my sweat-soaked hair, yanked it back until my scalp felt like it was peeling off. I lost my balance and fell to my knees right on the broken soup bowls. My knees bled. You pressed my head down hard against the floor, shoving the heel of your shoe covered in filthy, foul-smelling gutter mud right near my mouth. I was crazy. I was possessed by the devil. I was blinded by fake luxury. Lauren, you can cut off my hands, cut off my legs, but spare my old life. Open your mouth. Trash like you is lucky to even set foot in the Prescott estate. How dare you defy me? Those were your words. The smell of the mud stung my nose. I felt so nauseous, my stomach twisted in knots. I tried to struggle. Even though I had barely eaten anything for 3 days, the strength drawn from utter humiliation helped me hold on. I swatted your hand away. I shoved you. You stumbled back a few steps, tripped on the hem of your gown, and fell hard on your butt onto the carpet behind you. You weren't hurt at all. Not a single scratch on your skin. But you immediately shrieked like a dying pig. You clutched your chest. Pretended to faint. You put on a dramatic performance. The cheapest, most successful drama I have ever seen. Because I was afraid of being embarrassed. I fell in front of so many people. I had to do that so people would pity me and curse you. I'm sorry. My deceitful nature destroyed me, and the drama was a huge success. The crowd panicked. They cursed me, calling me an insolent daughter-in-law who dared to hit her mother-in-law. They demanded I be thrown out of the house. But all those curses didn't hurt me nearly as much as one person. One person I hoped would step forward, protect me, and say, "Enough. Leave my wife alone." A person for whom I threw away my status as a Winchester, threw away a $1 trillion fortune, just to trade it for a love that turned out to be fake. Brad. He stepped out of the crowd. And do you know, the second he stepped forward was the second my heart shattered completely. The final mask fell, revealing the most terrifying face of a demon. Brad emerged from the crowd wearing a luxurious navy suit, his hair slicked back perfectly. He saw you sitting on the carpet, clutching your chest and crying. Then he looked at me, the girl kneeling on broken porcelain, knees bleeding, hair a mess, face streaked with tears. At that moment, I looked at him with whatever begging I had left. I called his name. Brad. Help me. I didn't do anything. Your mother is forcing me to lick her shoes. Guess what I expected? I expected a shred of humanity from the man who shielded me from the rain 4 years ago. He had to take his mother's side. Everyone was watching. The relatives were criticizing you. If he defended you, people would curse him for being a disloyal son who bowed down to his wife. The pressure of filial piety was too heavy for him. Brad was suffering so much then. Filial piety? Don't use that sacred concept to cover up your filth. Protecting a wife whose dignity is being trampled for no reason isn't disloyalty. That's called being a man. Joining a rabid mob to humiliate a weak person is cowardice. That's being an animal. Your son wasn't suffering at all. He played the dutiful son so smoothly it was nauseating. He ran over, helped you up, dusted off your clothes. Then he turned to me, snatched a rag from a waiter's hand, and threw it right at my face. The rag slapped my cheek, stinging it. He was just too angry. He saw his mother fall, so he panicked. It's his own flesh and blood, child. You have to understand his psychology at that moment. Mama's boy psychology. He stepped forward and smiled sadistically. A condescending smirk I used to see him give homeless people on the street. Now he was giving it to his own wife. He emphasized every word, his voice echoing across the foyer, deliberately making sure all his aunts and uncles heard. Get on your knees and clean my mother's shoes. Don't embarrass the Prescott family. Didn't the foster care system teach you how to respect your elders? Foster care system, those words were like a knife plunging into my heart. He brought up your background. That was truly evil. I don't deny it. But he didn't know you were a Winchester. He really thought you were an orphan. Exactly because he thought I was an orphan is why he showed his true colors as a scumbag. It turns out, for these past 4 years, my orphan status was always the thing you hated from the bottom of your hearts. You gave me the title of daughter-in-law like throwing a bone to a starving dog, and forced me to spend the rest of my life repaying the debt. He brought up my fake background to humiliate me publicly. He told the whole family I was a fatherless, motherless child with no one to lean on. Totally uneducated. He trampled on all my sacrifices, my dedication, even the commercial building design I created by bleeding myself dry. In his eyes at that moment, I was just a leech ruining his trashy family's reputation. Lauren. I apologize 1,000 times over. He is cruel. But please, remember the bond of husband and wife. You can beat him, you can curse him, but please spare his life. He is my only son. The Prescott bloodline will end. End? A family that harbors scumbags like you should have been wiped off the map a long time ago. Listen carefully. When I heard those bastard words come out of Brad's mouth, I stopped crying. My tears dried up. My blind love and heart, as a princess who grew up in luxury, completely died in that exact second. I stood up slowly. The blood from my knees dripped down my calves. I looked straight into Brad's eyes. I said very calmly, Brad. You promised you would protect me for the rest of my life. Did you forget what you said on that rainy day? What? What did he say? I didn't hear clearly. It was too noisy. You didn't hear it clearly? But I heard every syllable echo in my brain. He took a step forward and slapped me. A full-force slap from a grown man. Smack. That slap was so hard I flew to the floor. My head slammed against the leg of a banquet table. My ears rang. Blood poured from my nose and mouth. I tasted copper. And amidst the chaos, I heard his cold voice, a promise to a stray dog is worthless. You dare hit my mother? You uneducated ghetto trash. Oh God. Karma. Karma really fell upon the Prescott family. Karma. You created yourselves. He hit me until I fell. But he didn't stop. He raised his foot, kicking me in the stomach and ribs over and over again. Every kick was the severing of our ties. The crowd, your relatives, started clapping. They clapped. They cheered. A man brutally beating his wife in public to protect family honor. A disgusting, barbaric spectacle, taken to the extreme. The agonizing pain made me curl up on the floor. I clutched my stomach, gasping for air. But I didn't close my eyes. I glared at Brad, glared at you, glared at all the emotionless faces standing around me. My gaze at that moment must have carried the hatred of a cornered wild animal. And that look of defiance was what triggered the deepest demonic instincts in your son. He looked around, then his hand reached for the silver fork on the banquet table. A sharp, cold steak fork. No. Lauren, don't. Don't continue. That scene haunts me. Even now, the blood squirting everywhere. I don't want to remember it. You have to remember it. You have to burn that moment into your brain until you die. When Brad picked up that silver fork, time around me stopped. That was the moment his mask shattered entirely. And it was also the moment the countdown to a bloody retribution began. Open your eyes wide, mother-in-law. The tip of that fork was flying toward me. You're shaking, aren't you? Your teeth are chattering loudly. You were scared? When your son picked up that silver fork, why weren't you scared then? Why didn't you run and hold him back like loving mothers do on TV? You stood there frozen. Your eyes were wide open, but the corners of your mouth twitched. Not because you were panicked, but because deep down, the demon inside you was waiting to see how your precious son would punish this stubborn daughter-in-law. No, I swear to God and heaven. I was frozen. I never thought he'd actually do it. That fork was so sharp, made of heavy pure silver. I thought he was just trying to scare you. How could I know he would actually stab you? Lauren, even the most savage tiger doesn't eat its own cubs. Why would I want to see a bloodbath at my birthday party? Shut your mouth. Your lies are too cheap. If you really thought he was just scaring me, the moment that fork was inches from my eye, you would have screamed. But the foyer was dead silent. 200 people. Mute as clams. Brad stood tall. His expensive suit wasn't even wrinkled. He held the fork in his right hand, the hand he used to stroke my hair. Interlock his fingers with mine, promising me a lifetime of peace. He gripped the handle of the fork so tightly his knuckles turned white. I looked at him. Blood was still flowing from my nose from his slap. I looked at him not to challenge him, but to see just how far human evil could go. It was because of your glare. You glared at him with pure hatred. My son has a massive ego. His pride as a husband felt trampled by you. He got provoked. He lost control. Again, blaming the victim. The bastard logic of you two, mother and son, truly makes me sick. I was beaten to the ground. My dignity was crushed. I just used my eyes to look at my abuser, and you call it provoking him? He raised his hand. The light from the crystal chandelier reflected a blinding glint off the 3 sharp prongs of that silver fork. And then, squelch. Ah, the sound actually wasn't loud. Just a dull, cracking sound, like someone stabbing a sharp object into a ripe grape. But that sound echoed directly against my eardrum, piercing through my brain's membrane. Stop talking. Blood. Blood squirted out. I saw the blood splash onto his suit. I collapsed. I couldn't stand up anymore. Right. Blood. The fork buried deep into my left eye socket. The life and light from half my world were instantly extinguished. Darkness came without warning. For the first second, I didn't feel pain. Literally no pain. The human body is miraculous. When it takes a fatal injury, the nervous system freezes to protect the brain. I only felt an immensely powerful thrust hit my face, slamming my head against the marble floor once more. Then, after that frozen second passed, hell arrived. I'm begging you. I'll bite my tongue and kill myself if you describe it in that much detail. I'm haunted. My heart hurts. Your heart hurts? Then what about me? The pain exploded from my eye socket, tearing through every optic nerve. It felt like thousands of needles dipped in battery acid were jammed directly into my brain and stirred around. I screamed. My scream tore my throat, echoing across that massive room, slamming against the faux gold walls of your house and bouncing back. I raised my hands, clutching my face, but I didn't dare touch it. The silver fork was still stuck there, cold and cruel. Hot blood geysered out of my eye socket. The blood poured through my fingers, flooding my cheeks, running down my neck, and soaking the bodice of my white dress. Blood mixed with tears, smelling of copper and tasting of salt. The entire party devolved into chaos. Ants screamed. Someone fainted. I wanted to faint too. I was in a state of absolute panic. Panic. A crowd of 200 people panicked, not out of pity for a dying life, but terrified of being dragged into it. Terrified the cops would come. Terrified of a scandal. Terrified of being at a crime scene. While I rolled around on the floor holding half my face destroyed by my own husband's hands, what did Brad do? He took a half step back. He looked at his blood-soaked hands, then looked at me. Do you know what expression was on his face? Not regret. Not fear. But disgust. He was disgusted because the dirty blood of a poor daughter-in-law stained the luxurious floors of his house. He was shaking. Brad was shaking. I saw his jaw drop. He was panicking over what he'd just done. He's a good boy who's never even killed a chicken or a duck. A good boy who wouldn't kill a chicken, but was ready to destroy his wife's eye. His intellectual CEO mask was nothing more than a thin layer of paint covering a wild beast. He turned to look at you, and in that moment, I hoped a mother, an older woman, would scream for someone to call 911. I waited for someone from that self-proclaimed prestigious family to have a shred of humanity to call the cops. But no one did. Everyone backed away. They formed a circle, watching me thrash in a pool of blood as if I were a diseased animal. They were scared. Everyone was scared of dealing with the law. Besides, the Prescott family has a reputation. If this got out, the media would be all over it. Brad's company would go bankrupt, and the relatives would be ruined too. I had to protect the family honor. Family honor. A rotten, cheap honor built on the blood and lives of others. It was that bastard honor that made you issue the most ruthless order I've ever heard in my life. At that time, my ears were ringing, my left eye was pitch black. My right eye blurred by tears and agony. But I heard your shrill voice crystal clear across the foyer. The voice of a cold-blooded murderer hiding behind the mask of a wealthy socialite. Do you remember what you screamed, Eleanor? I don't remember. I had temporary amnesia. I was in shock. In shock, but you still managed to take charge of the situation? You yelled, "What are you standing around staring for? My party is getting bloody. This will be bad luck all year. Security. Drag this crazy bitch to the back and lock her in the storage room. Don't let her blood ruin my party's foyer. Lock all the doors. Nobody dare call the cops. Call Dr. Trenton to come give her an anesthetic. After the party's over, I'll deal with her." Your words were as sharp as a meat cleaver, without a hint of hesitation. You didn't care if I lived or died. You only cared that my pool of blood would stain your carpet and ruin your 60th birthday. Dr. Trenton is our private, off-the-books doctor. He's very smart. I called him to save you. I didn't call an ambulance because the sirens would blare through the whole gated community. People would get suspicious. I still wanted to save your life. Save my life by throwing me into a dark, freezing storage room with moldy sacks of rice and sewer rats? You intended to cover it up using a quack doctor who takes hush money to stitch up mobsters. What did you think I was? A stray dog hit by a car, dragged to a corner to wait and heal itself. After your order, 2 massive security guards men I usually shared good food with stepped forward with cold expressions. They didn't dare look at my face. They grabbed my arms. The betrayal and cruelty of humanity reached its absolute peak. Blood. Drops of my blood dripped onto the marble floor, forming a long trail from the main foyer straight to the basement storage room. That trail of blood was exactly what guided the entire Prescott family to their graves. Cry louder. The sound of your weeping right now sounds like the whine of a bug about to be squashed. 2 security guards dragged me across the floor. The pain from my eye socket radiated through my entire body, leaving me with no strength to struggle. My heels scraped against the stone steps leading down to the storage room behind the kitchen. Blood from my left eye kept pouring, soaking the bodice of my dress. Not a single invited guest stepped forward to stop it. 200 educated, wealthy, respected people stood like statues, watching a woman get her eye stabbed out by her husband, then ordered by her mother-in-law to be thrown into a storage room like disgusting garbage. Lauren, that was mass cowardice. They all owed the Prescott family favors. They were begging Brad to design their projects. How could they dare offend our family? At that time, I was just a victim of circumstance. A victim of circumstance? You were the director of that circumstance. You locked me up. While you went back out to the foyer, you ordered the staff to clean up the blood and spray expensive perfume to cover the metallic stench. Then you laughed, toasting, raising a glass of red wine as red as blood to accept birthday wishes from those hypocrites. Meanwhile, in the damp, dark basement storage room, I was thrown onto the freezing concrete floor. The guards shut the door. The sound of a padlock clicking shut echoed. Darkness swallowed me alive. Half my world had gone blind forever, the other half was obscured by the pitch-black room. I had already called Dr. Trenton. He said he was on his way. I planned to come down and check on you after the party was over. I had no intention of killing you. Murder means a life for a life. I know the law. You were only afraid of paying with your life, not afraid of hurting a fellow human being. Lying on the cold concrete floor, my heart raced. Every beat caused agonizing pain. The silver fork was still stuck in there. I didn't dare pull it out, because I knew if I pulled it out without medical tools to stop the bleeding, I would die of a massive hemorrhage before your quack doctor arrived. I lay curled up like a dying worm. The musty smell of the room, the smell of rat droppings mixed with the stench of my own fresh blood, stung my nose. You poor thing, child. I was wrong. I was wrong 1,000 times over. If time could rewind, I would have taken that stab for you. I wouldn't have been a hypocrite anymore. You wouldn't have done it. Your true nature is selfish to the bone marrow. When I lay in that darkness, do you know what I was thinking about? I wasn't thinking about the physical pain anymore. The extreme pain that surpassed human tolerance turned into a bizarre numbness. My mind started playing back a movie of the last 4 years. The image of Brad taking off his jacket to shield me from the rain at our first meeting. Your fake smile when you accepted my cheap fruit basket. The nights I stayed up drawing designs for his company. The freezing winter laundry, the leftover oatmeal steeped in hot water, and finally, his disgusting look of contempt as he stabbed my eye. Lauren. 4 years of marriage. Was there not a single second where he truly loved you? I don't believe Brad was that cold. Not a single second, it was all exploitation disguised as love. In that dark storage room, a cruel but brilliantly clear awakening exploded in my head. I suddenly realized how incredibly stupid I had been. I, Lauren Winchester, heiress to the Winchester Empire, a clan that controls the economic lifelines of North America. A snap of my father's fingers could bankrupt a small nation. A furrow of his brow could crash the stock market. But his only daughter was lying dying in a filthy storage room, her eye stabbed blind by the director of a garbage company and a status-obsessed old hag. I had thrown away the pride of a phoenix to jump into a chicken coop, hoping the chickens would love me. Truly, the most ridiculous tragicomedy of the century. You were so noble. Why did you torture yourself? Why didn't you say it from the beginning? If you had told us, wouldn't everyone have enjoyed prosperity? Why did you hide it, only to bring disaster upon yourself in the end? This disaster isn't a disaster I brought on myself. It was a test of humanity, and you and your son failed completely. The awakening in the darkness killed off all the weak, romantic, idiotic sides of a naive princess. My love was dead, my compassion was dead too. Now, all that remained was Lauren, the dictatorial and ruthless heir to the Winchester bloodline. I strained my ears. From far away, the classical music from your party could still be heard. Faintly penetrating the thick walls, the clinking of glasses. Your flirty laugh thanking the guests. You were celebrating over my blood. My blood was seeping into the soil of your house, but you could still swallow that expensive lobster bisque. There were so many guests at the time. I couldn't just stop the party. I had to force myself to put on an act. Even though my heart felt like it was on fire. On fire? Let me show you real fire. In my head at that moment, there was only one thought. Revenge. Not some cheap revenge through a civil lawsuit in court. I wanted total annihilation. I wanted to stomp this entire family into the dirt. To level this mansion to the ground, force you and your son to kneel under my shoes, and lick up every drop of blood I had shed. I used my right hand, the hand that wasn't too covered in blood, to fumble through the pocket of the yellowed apron I was still wearing. My phone. You were looking for your phone? The security guards didn't search you? Those thugs dragged me in without searching me. Right, they treated me like a dying dog. Who would search the apron pocket of a maid? I pulled out my beat-up phone. The screen was cracked, the battery was at 10%. The blood from my fingers smeared the touchscreen, making it slick and unresponsive. I had to wipe my fingers on the edge of my blood-soaked white dress to dry them, then try to swipe the screen again. Every tiny movement of my facial muscles and hands brought chest-ripping pain. My right eye was almost entirely blind from tears and burst blood vessels, everything was blurry. But I still bit my bottom lip to stay conscious. The taste of fresh blood filled my mouth. My awakening was complete. The gates of hell were preparing to swing wide open to welcome you. Do you know what it feels like to stand on the threshold of life and death? When your heartbeat slows down, your hands and feet feel freezing cold, your consciousness begins to drift. At that moment, a person can only hold on to one hope. And my only hope was the man I had cut ties with 4 years ago. My father. The person who slapped me so hard when I announced I was running away with Brad. He pointed at my face and said, "If you step out of this house, throwing away your family for that bastard, then from now on, live at your own risk. If people abuse you, don't you dare show your face looking for me." Mr. Harrison Winchester, CEO of the Winchester Empire. The indisputable titan. I've seen him on TV. I even told Brad to study his aura. I didn't know. I didn't know he was your father. He is my in-law. In-law? You have no right to utter that word. You and your family are just dirt on the soles of his shoes. I opened my contacts. The contacts on my old phone weren't many. My dad's number was on the blocked list for 4 years. With a trembling thumb, I unblocked it. My hands were slick with blood. It took 3 tries to succeed. The phone screen lit up the pitch-black room, casting a pale blue light on the blood-soaked half of my face. I looked at that familiar string of numbers I had memorized by heart since I was a little girl. You called him. If you called him, and he heard you crying, he would have pitied you. But you only sent a text. Why didn't you call? I didn't have the energy to call. If I had opened my mouth at that moment, the vibration of my vocal cords and jaw muscles would have pushed the silver fork deeper, piercing my brain membrane. I would have died instantly. And more importantly, I didn't want to cry and beg. My father despises weak people. He is a ruthless alpha wolf. He raised me to be a wolf cub, not a whimpering lamb. I only needed to send a text message short enough, sharp enough, to wake the beast inside him. I tapped the messaging icon. Just one short sentence. Just one sentence traded for the lives of your entire family. Traded for a business built over generations. You are so cruel, Lauren. I typed letter by letter. My hands shook violently. Cold sweat poured down my forehead, mixing with the gushing blood. The first letter, D. The blood from my hand smeared the screen, making it glitch. I had to wipe it again on my dress. My right eye could barely see the letters clearly, it was so blurry. I typed purely on muscle memory. Dad. Your daughter is being abused. 4 words. I didn't need to say where I was, didn't need to explain my injuries. Because with the Winchester Empire's intelligence network in power, the second I sent a signal, within 30 seconds they would pinpoint my coordinates with a margin of error of less than 3 feet. 4 bloody words. Oh God. At that moment, I was standing on the stage, holding the microphone, cutting the tiered cake. I had absolutely no idea the Grim Reaper's scythe was already at our necks. Right. While you were cheering and cutting your fake 3-tier cake, Eleanor, my bloody finger hit the send button. The little green arrow spun, then there was a very soft whoosh, sent. I saw the read receipt appear almost instantly. My father always stays up late to work. He had seen it. Right then, a strange peace washed over me. I dropped the phone onto the concrete floor. I closed my remaining eye and lay still, waiting. I knew that the moment that read receipt appeared, the fate of the Prescott family was sealed. You were no longer living in this world. You were just walking corpses waiting to be cleaned up. Why? Why didn't you warn us? Why didn't you say, I just texted my family, you're all dead? If you had said that, I would have dropped to my knees and begged for your forgiveness right then and there. I would have called an ambulance immediately. You tricked us until the very last second. Warned us so we'd have a chance to run away, or so you could play your disgusting, fake repentance drama again? No. I wanted you to die right at the peak of your own arrogance. To fall from the podium of glory straight into the 18th circle of hell. That was the fitting punishment. Laying in the storage room, I started a countdown. My father is a man who prioritizes speed. The Winchester Empire operates like a war machine. 15 minutes. I knew I only had to hold on for 15 more minutes. 15 minutes. Time flew by like the blink of an eye. I was standing on the podium, thanking the guests. Brad was standing next to me. I was smiling so brightly. Everything was perfect. Perfect. Brad's smile at that moment was the smile of a murderer who thought he had successfully covered his tracks. He thought throwing his wife into a basement would solve the problem. He thought tomorrow morning he'd invent an excuse, like I had a psychotic break and stabbed my own eye out. Or worse, that I ran away with another man to cover up his crime. His calculations were so meticulous. But how can the calculations of ants fight against the wrath of an enraged dragon? A rumbling sound. At first, I thought it was thunder from the storm. A rumble from afar. The wine glasses on the tables began to vibrate. It wasn't thunder. It was the sound of vengeance. The 5-minute countdown had ended. I lay in the basement, clearly feeling the vibrations traveling through the ground. Dust from the ceiling fell onto my face. And then, a sky-ripping sound drowned out all the music, laughter, and clinking of fake crystal in the foyer. The silence of the stormy night was shattered by a force you never imagined in your entire life, Eleanor. Get ready. Because in the next part, I will tell you how 100 helicopters from a billionaire conglomerate shattered the fragile glass roof of your home. Raise your head. Do you remember that sound? The sound that started as a low hum in the distance, then rapidly escalated into an eardrum-shattering roar. At that moment, you were standing on your podium of glory, ready to give your thank you speech to the guests who came to your 60th anniversary. You were smiling brightly, weren't you? A satisfied smile because you had just locked away the eyesore of a daughter-in-law into a dark room, preserving your family's dignity. But that smile died on your lips. The wine glass. The wine glass in my hand was shaking so violently. The liquid rippled, then spilled all over my gown. I thought it was an earthquake. All the guests stood up in a panic. The roaring sound didn't come from underground. It descended from the sky. Exactly, from the sky. My father didn't send a few luxury SUVs to honk at the front gate like nouveau riche wannabes. He deployed a full squadron of 100 pitch-black, armored military attack helicopters, PMCs funded by the Winchester Group. They flew so low that even I, lying underground, could feel the brutal pressure of the massive rotors slicing the air. The black shadows of the helicopters completely blotted out the moonlight, blanketing the elite Greenwich community you proudly thought was untouchable, under a shroud of death. Oh God, the wind. A hurricane came. The party tents on the lawn were blown away by the rotor wash, scattering like confetti. The metal frames snapped, crashing onto the line of luxury cars at the gate. The thick bulletproof glass in the foyer, the glass Brad always bragged about, shattered into a million pieces. Glass rained down onto the banquet tables. Everyone was screaming, trampling over each other to run away. Run where? When 100 helicopters had completely blockaded the sky, shining hundreds of blinding searchlights as bright as high noon into every corner of the estate. Not even an ant could escape. The wind pressure brought down the cheap crystal chandelier you bought at an antique market, shattering it into tens of thousands of pieces in the middle of the foyer. The luxurious banquet tables, the plates of lobster bisque and wagyu I spent days making, were now covered in dust and shattered glass. Your honorable guests, the same people who clapped and cheered when Brad beat me, were now cowering under tables holding their heads, weeping hysterically like rats smoked out of a sewer. Panic. Total panic. Brad was panicking then. He tried to keep his composure as a CEO. He ran to the door, yelling for our security guards to block them. He even called the local chief of police. He said the Prescott family had extensive connections, no one would dare act so recklessly. Extensive connections. The chief of police. How laughable. At that moment, across the entire state of Connecticut and New York, all law enforcement from the highest federal levels had already received orders to turn a blind eye. Not a single person, I repeat, not a single person dared to pick up Brad's call. When the Winchester Empire steps in, conventional law steps back to make way for the law of absolute power. Brad stood at the door holding his phone, screaming in despair. His slicked back hair was a mess. His face was as pale as a corpse. I was so scared. I hid behind the podium. I hugged my designer bag tightly. I thought international terrorists had come to assassinate someone at the party. Even in death, I never thought that army came because of you. Because of the daughter-in-law I just ordered locked in the basement. Because your arrogance blinded you, you always believed you were the strongest, holding the power of life and death. Lying in the dark storage room, blood from my left eye still dripping onto the cement floor, when I heard the wind howling through the cracks of the rusted door, the roar of the helicopters, and your hysterical screams from the foyer. I smiled. A crooked, bloody smile. I knew the true light had come. Not the dim light from the fake people out there, but the light of destructive fire. They dropped ropes. Dozens of special ops forces dressed in black, faces fully covered, carrying automatic assault rifles, fast roped down from the helicopters straight onto your lawn. My security guards. I saw the guards see those guns and immediately drop their batons, drop to their knees, and raise their hands in surrender. There was no resistance at all. The Prescott family was neutralized in less than 30 seconds. 30 seconds was even too slow for my father's elite PMCs. Your security guards, the ones who were so vicious dragging me and throwing me into the basement when faced with real gun barrels, turned into cowards pissing their pants. Weren't they so tough earlier? Didn't you give them orders so clearly? Dozens of rifle barrels pointed directly into the foyer. The solid mahogany front doors you imported at such high cost were kicked in without mercy. And amidst the encirclement of heavily armed forces, the most powerful man in America stepped out. Open your old eyes wide. We are getting to the part you will never forget for the rest of your life. The moment my father descended. You're still panting? The suffocating fear of a rifle barrel pointed at your head still haunts you? Let me set the scene. My father, Harrison Winchester, CEO of the Winchester Empire. He wasn't wearing a bulletproof vest. Just a long black tailored overcoat. His aura was calm, yet radiated a towering, murderous intent. He didn't run. He walked slowly. Every step he took on the red carpet, soaked with rain and shattered glass, created a crunching sound that felt like it was crushing the soul of the entire Prescott family. His gaze was terrifying, like the king of hell walking the earth. When Brad saw him walk in, he recognized Mr. Winchester. He used to keep a framed Forbes magazine cover of him in his office as an idol. Brad immediately dropped to his knees and crawled forward, trying to greet him. He called out, "Mr. Winchester. What brings you here?" "Our Prescott family." Brad hadn't even finished his sentence when a massive PMC operator smashed him in the face with the butt of an assault rifle. Smash. Blood instantly spewed from your son's mouth and nose. He flew back several feet. 3 of his front teeth were broken. The guests screamed in terror, but were instantly silenced by the sound of guns being cocked by the operators. My father didn't even deign to look at him. He stopped in the middle of the foyer, scanning the chaos, staring at the trail of blood that hadn't yet been cleaned up on the marble floor. I didn't know who he was at that moment. I saw my son get hit, and my instincts as a mother and my arrogance took over. I ran to hug Brad, then pointed at his face and screamed, "Where did you street thugs come from?" How dare you break into the Prescott estate and assault people? Do you know where you are? This is Greenwich. I'm calling the police to arrest all of you. Street thugs. You called a Wall Street titan a street thug. You truly were a frog at the bottom of a well, ignorant of the heights of the sky and the depths of the earth. My father didn't even bother answering you. His trusted fixer, Uncle Robert, stepped forward. He slapped you across the face so hard you collapsed. Robert's voice was freezing cold. Shut your dog mouth, you old hag. We are here to pick up the young miss. If there is a single scratch on the young miss's body, not a single person in this house will be left alive. The young miss. When I heard those words, my ears rang. I looked around. There was no young miss in this foyer. I thought they had the wrong address. Brad also stuttered, You have the wrong person. There's no young miss in our family. Everyone here is a Prescott. That was when my father finally spoke. His deep voice echoed like thunder. Where does this trail of blood lead? Your head of security, trembling so hard he could barely stand, pointed toward the door leading to the hallway behind the kitchen. My father walked. The armed operators immediately parted into two lines, clearing a path for him. They stepped over the guests cowering on the floor, kicked open the kitchen doors, and arrived in front of the rusted iron door of the storage room. My father didn't need to wait for anyone to find a key. He gave a signal with a tilt of his chin. An operator slapped a small breaching charge directly onto the rusty padlock. Boom! The iron door was blown wide open. Thick dust billowed out. I was dragged by two operators from behind. I was forced to watch as the door opened. Oh God! The overwhelming stench of blood instantly hit us. The tactical flashlights from their rifles shined directly into the corner of the wall. Shined directly onto you. I lay curled up on the freezing concrete floor. One eye already dark. The silver fork covered in blood was still protruding from my left socket. The white dress I sewed was soaked in a massive bloodstain. My blood pooled on the damp floor. When my father saw that sight, his steps halted. The man with a heart of iron, who had never shed a tear in his entire life in the cutthroat business world. His shoulders shook. He fell to his knees. A billionaire titan kneeling on the floor of a filthy storage room. His hands shook as they touched my blood-soaked face. My baby. Daddy's little girl. His voice choked with rage and unbearable pain. I struggled to open my remaining right eye. Seeing my dad's face, I could only whisper weakly. Dad, I was wrong. I want to go home. He took off his overcoat and wrapped my cold body in it with extreme care. A specialized medical team immediately rushed in, injected me with a high dose of painkillers, and carefully lifted me onto a stretcher. Before walking out of that hell, my father turned his head. His gaze swept over your face, and your son's face, you two who were being pressed to your knees on the ground. He didn't curse you. Didn't scream. He only said one sentence to Uncle Robert. Raze this place to the ground. Annihilate the entire Prescott family. Anyone who dares to interfere, kill without mercy. The order was given. The machine of destruction began to work. Do you know how the Winchester Empire destroys someone? Not just with a brutal beating or instant death. My father wanted you to live to witness the things you worshipped. The things you used to step on me turned to dust in a matter of minutes. At that moment, Brad's phone rang continuously. Everything happened so fast. Your father's fixer. Robert. He stood in the foyer, holding an iPad, and started reading out freezing orders. I didn't understand what was happening. I just saw Brad pick up his phone, and his face turned as pale as a corpse. Of course. The first call was from the bank. All personal accounts, savings, and corporate accounts of the Prescott family were frozen on suspicion of large-scale money laundering. You thought you were rich? Your spare change in the bank was frozen with a single click from the Winchester Group. Next, all the architecture projects Brad was working on the Japanese client he had just scammed using my designs called to cancel the contracts immediately and sue him for intellectual property theft. Just the damages alone were enough to make your family destitute. Brad screamed into the phone. Why? Why are you doing this? The contracts are already signed. But the person on the other end only replied, You offended someone you should never have offended. Brad hung up, his hands shaking so violently he dropped his iPhone, shattering the screen on the floor. I ran to hug him. I was crying. Who exactly did we offend? And right at that moment, Robert stepped in front of us. He threw a stack of acquisition documents for Brad's firm right into his face. His voice echoed loud and clear, making sure the 200 terrified guests heard it. Open your dog eyes wide. The person whose eye you just stabbed out. The person you locked in a moldy storage room. Is the sole heir to the Winchester Empire. Miss Lauren Winchester. Lauren Winchester. I felt like I was struck by lightning. My jaw dropped, my eyes bugged out. Watching the paramedics carry you out. The orphan daughter-in-law, the poor girl leeching off the Prescott family, was actually the daughter of the billionaire empire that controls the North American economy. No. Impossible. I shook my head violently. I said it had to be mistaken identity. Brad dropped to his knees, holding his head, muttering like a madman. It's not true. She's an orphan. She wore cheap clothes and walked to my house. Because in the eyes of people like you, a person's value is only measured by the clothes they wear and the fake masks on the outside. When Robert announced my identity, your relatives, the aunts and uncles who just incited Brad to beat me immediately crawled forward, bowing their heads to the floor, begging for mercy. They hastily cut ties with the Prescott family. We didn't know anything. Eleanor instigated it. Brad hit her. Please spare us. Well, you see? The manners and family bond you always used as an excuse to teach me turned out to be so cheap and cowardly. They were willing to step on your face just to survive. Destroyed. Everything was truly destroyed. In just 15 minutes, the company's stock plummeted to the bottom. The banks seized the assets. The PMCs from the Winchester family started using armored vehicles to tear down the estate's gates, the sound of bricks and roof tiles collapsing. I sat in the foyer watching my life's work, my pride, turn to rubble. Brad was crying like a baby. He was banging his head against the ground, begging Mr. Winchester to forgive him. Forgive him. He plunged a silver fork into the eye of Harrison Winchester's daughter, and he expected forgiveness. My father stood watching your panic with the cold gaze of an ultimate judge. He didn't pull the trigger and execute him right then and there because a quick death was too much of a blessing. Losing your wealth was only the first step. Oh, cruel mother-in-law. The humiliation, the physical torture, the darkness in my left eye. I will make you and your son pay it back. One by one. Not a single drop of blood less. Now, this basement is quiet enough. Let's move to the direct settlement of your blood debt. Be quiet for a second. Listen closely. In the cell next door, behind this 2-foot-thick concrete wall. Do you recognize whose muffled groans those are? Can't scream, can only whimper like an animal whose vocal cords were cut. Exactly. Your panicked eyes tell me you recognize it. That's Brad's voice. Your precious son. Your lifelong pride. You feel pity? You want to run over there, hug and protect your poor boy? Cry. Cry until those filthy tears of yours dry up. Because you will never see his face again for the rest of your life. Brad. Oh God, that's Brad's voice. Lauren, what did you do to him? I've been locked in here for a month. I haven't been allowed to see him. Did you cut his vocal cords? Please, I'm begging you. I'll bow to you 10 times. He is my flesh and blood. I'm willing to die in his place. Let me pay you with my life. You can mutilate me, but leave a way out for the Prescott family. He's in agony. How can he endure it? Endure it? He stabbed my eye with a silver fork. Did he stop to think if I could endure it? I already told you, Karma in this world is very fair. But sometimes God is too busy, so the Winchester family steps in to represent him. Die in his place? You're using your cheap old life to bargain with me. Both your lives combined aren't worth a single drop of my blood spilled in that foyer. Listen carefully. Brad isn't dead, but he's living a life far more terrifying than death. You remember, he used to be so proud of his hands as an architect. The hands he used to steal my designs, slap me to the floor, and hold the fork to blind me. No. No. Don't say it. I don't want to hear it. His hands. What did you do to his hands? He is a designer. He makes a living with those hands. Right, he makes a living with those hands. That's why I had my men crush every single joint in his fingers. Not chopped off. Chopping them off is too easy. The bones were pulverized into dust, then left to heal incorrectly on their own. Now, the two hands of that handsome young CEO are nothing more than two twisted lumps of flesh, curled up like dead spider legs. He will never be able to hold a pencil again. He will never be able to feed himself again, let alone draw blueprints or hit a woman. But that wasn't enough. An eye for an eye, blood for blood. That is the rule. My father. Lauren, you are so cruel. How could you do something so barbaric to the man who used to sleep next to you? You gouged out his eye. Oh God. My son is completely crippled. Cruel. I'm cruel, because of the lessons taught by a mother and son like you. But you're wrong. I didn't have the free time to do the dirty work of gouging out his eye with my own hands. My father hired the best underground surgeons money could buy. They injected him with just enough local anesthetic so he wouldn't pass out, then slowly, methodically removed his left eye. They placed a rusty iron ball in the socket. Now, your precious son's world is also halved. The other half is darkness, the freezing cold of an iron ball in his skull. And sheer terror. Every single day, I have my guards throw blank paper and a pen at him. They force him to use his crippled, trembling hands to try and redraw the commercial building designs he stole from me. He can't draw. He screamed hysterically, so they destroyed his vocal cords while they were at it. Do you think that punishment is fitting for your obedient little boy? Kill me. Just kill me. Don't torture us anymore. The Prescott family has been leveled. Our wealth is gone. Our reputation is destroyed. Your revenge has gone too far. Why didn't you hand us over to the police? Why did you build this private prison to torture us? You're breaking the law. Do you think the Winchester family can just do whatever they want? The law. How funny. When you ordered the guards to lock the storage room, leaving me in a puddle of blood, and forbade anyone from calling the cops, where was the law then? In your rotten mind, the law only applies to humans. You two abandoned your humanity a long time ago and turned into wild beasts. So, I have to use the law of the jungle to deal with you. Don't bring up the law to scare me. This underground bunker is located deep beneath a private island owned by the Winchester Group in the Caribbean. Even if you scream until your throat rips, only these concrete walls will hear you. The blood debt for Brad has been settled. Now it's your turn. I am paying for my sins. You chained my hands, locked me in this cell without sunlight. You feed me spoiled food and dirty water. I went from a high society matriarch to living worse than a stray dog. What more do you want from this old body? Paying for your sins? Not yet. That leftover rice and spoiled food you're eating is exactly the same garbage you forced down my throat in the corner of the pantry next to the trash can. Try it and see how it tastes. Delicious? Bitter? But that's still not enough to repay the dignity you trampled on. Tomorrow, I'm having my guards bring a pair of shoes, covered in filthy mud down here. Mud scraped from the dirtiest sewer in New York City. And every mealtime, instead of being served on a plate, your food will be poured directly onto those shoes. You will have to get on your knees and use your tongue to lick clean every single grain of rice mixed with that mud. No. Don't do that. I'm old. I'm sick. If I eat like that, I'll die. You're going too far. Just kill me. Don't force me to do something so degrading. Degrading? On the 5th, when you shoved my head to the floor, forcing me to lick your shoes in front of 200 guests. Why didn't you think of the word degrading then? You were so proud back then, weren't you? You wanted to assert your mother-in-law authority, right? Well, in this hell, I make the rules. If you don't lick it, you will starve. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. When hunger tears at your stomach, when thirst makes your throat crack and bleed, your survival instinct will automatically make you bow your head and lick those shoes. You will have to do that every single day until the last breath leaves your frail body. That is the fairest blood for blood retribution. Raise your head and look me in the eye. Don't look away. Look closely at my left eye. This is no longer the bloody eye that fell beneath your heel that day. Beautiful, isn't it? Sparkling like flawless black crystal. But it feels so cold. This is a prosthetic. My father flew me on a private medical jet straight to Switzerland. He assembled a medical board consisting of 30 of the best surgeons in the world, just to preserve the structure of my face. They spent 18 hours in the operating room. 18 hours I hovered between life and death. My brain was severely damaged because the fork went too deep. They reconstructed my eye socket, grafted nerves piece by piece, and implanted this lifeless crystal stone. But the cruel reality is, no matter how advanced the technology, even though my father threw tens of millions of dollars at it, half my world on the left is blind. Turned pitch black forever. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Your beautiful eyes. I was truly blind. Because I had eyes but no heart, that's why I hurt you like this. If you could get your light back, I'd willingly gouge out my own old eyes to give them to you. What would I want your cloudy, greed-filled eyes for? Even if they were put in my face, they'd just make me sick. This loss, this defect in my body. It used to be a nightmare. Every time I looked in the mirror during those first few months, I shattered who knows how many mirrors in the Winchester estate because I couldn't accept reality. But then my father walked into my room. He picked up the broken glass until his hands bled. He said to his only daughter, "The greatest people always carry scars on their bodies that cannot be erased. Your left eye is gone. Let your remaining right eye see all the fake illusions in this world. Starting today, you are no longer a daydreaming college girl, chasing cheap love. You are the queen of the Winchester Empire." He was right. I am a queen. I was born with a silver spoon in my mouth. I am a phoenix in the high sky. The Prescott family was just an ugly toad at the bottom of a deep well. If only I had known my place from the beginning. I wouldn't have invited this destruction. This is all because of my greed. Right. Because of your empty greed and arrogance. My father's words woke me up once more. I wiped my tears, threw all my cheap clothes from the past into the fireplace, and burned them to ashes. Along with that fire, the submissive, yielding, and foolish Lauren of the Prescott family burned away completely. When I stepped out of that room, I was wearing a black power suit and diamond-studded stilettos. Thousands of corporate employees bowed to greet me. I reclaimed my position as the heir. I sit in the CEO chair during board meetings that dictate the flow of hundreds of billions of dollars. Every signature of mine now can sink rival corporations. I return to the sky that rightfully belongs to me. A sky that is vast, cutthroat, and has no room for weakness. But it is brilliant and free. You've won. You've gotten your revenge. Now you stand above millions and below only one. Escorted everywhere. The Prescott family is shattered to pieces. Brad and I are living a fate worse than death. Can you let this grudge go now? Will your heart find peace if you keep locking up and torturing people who have already lost everything? Peace? You think I have so much free time that I come down here every day to look at your face just to find peace? To me, whether you and your son live or die is no different than my decision to step on an ant or walk past it. In the dictionary of people who stand at the pinnacle of power, the word "let go" does not exist for enemies. The mercy of a saint doesn't suit me. I keep you at the bottom of this hell as a daily reminder to myself. A bloody lesson about the mistake of trusting people. I want you to live a very long time, 100 years, if possible, so that every single day in this freezing basement, you have to imagine how I stand at the top of the world enjoying brilliant light, while you are nothing but trash erased from human civilization. Lauren. Hatred will kill your soul. You are still young, your future is long. If you keep holding on to vengeance like this, you will never find true happiness. Listen to my words for the last time, child. Shut your mouth. Even now, you still dare to use that fake, preachy tone to lecture me? True happiness isn't blindly enduring and forgiving evil demons. True happiness, for me, is protecting my crown with my own hands and forcing the people who dared to spill my blood to lay face down in the mud and lick up their chances of survival. My soul isn't dead. It was simply reforged in cold steel. The Prescott family has been erased from all records. Not a single newspaper dares to cover you. No relative dares to mention your name. You have evaporated from the human world. My new sky no longer has the shadow of deception. Because anyone who dares to deceive me will end up exactly like you. So this is truly the end of everything. 4 years of marriage, 1 birthday party, 1 life. I was wrong. I was so totally wrong. Right. Everything is over. Our long story ends here. Your tears. Your late regrets. The sound of your son's desperate whimpering in the next room. It is the perfect symphony to close this drama. Slowly savor the rest of your life in darkness, ex-mother-in-law. A muddy shoe will be waiting for your breakfast tomorrow morning. I have an empire to run. The sky out there is bright and clear, while down here, it will be the dead of night forever. Goodbye. Stepping out of that dark, freezing underground bunker, I slowly walked up the stairs, welcoming the bright evening sun directly onto my face. The ocean breeze blew through my hair, carrying a salty scent that felt so incredibly free and relieving. I slowly raised my hand, touching the edge of my left eye, the place where a cold, artificial crystal is now permanently set. Never to see true light again. Yet strangely, at this exact second, my heart felt brighter than ever before. The revenge is complete. Those who sowed evil are now lying at the bottom of an abyss of darkness, gnawing on the exact pain they once carved into my life. But to the viewers and friends listening out there, do you know that standing at that ultimate peak, what remained in me wasn't a crazed sense of satisfaction, but a sigh of relief from awakening and letting go? I imprisoned them, but that was also the moment I freed my own soul from the invisible cage of the past. The ashes of the Prescott family have been swept away by the wind, and with them, the weak, dependent, and foolish Lauren of the past has completely vanished, making way for a woman who is whole, resilient, and knows how to love herself. Looking back at the long journey, from a billionaire heiress wrapped in silk and luxury, I once broke my own phoenix wings, throwing away my crown just to bow my head in a cramped kitchen, enduring beatings and insults. I used to naively believe that infinite patience and unconditional sacrifice could melt hearts of stone, that it would be traded for pure, selfless love. But I was wrong. A mistake paid for with blood, and the darkness of half my world. My transformation today from someone broken in the mud rising to wield absolute power wasn't solely because of my family's wealth. It was thanks to the moment I realized the true value of my own life. The physical agony of that day tore away the veil of illusion, teaching me a bloody lesson: no one has the right to trample on you, unless you willingly let them do it. My story today, though brutal and extreme, is a mirror reflecting the many dark corners of everyday life. Ladies, friends who are listening to this confession, please look deep into your own hearts. How many times, in the name of love, in the name of family harmony, have we lowered our own standards? How many times have we swallowed our tears, eaten cold leftovers, endured absurd insults and slaps? Just because we believe that a woman is better off yielding for the sake of household peace? Friends, sacrifice is only meaningful if it is placed in the right spot and given to the right person. When you plant seeds of kindness in toxic soil, what grows aren't flowers or fruit, but thorns that will rip your life apart. Never delude yourself into thinking your love is big enough to change the true nature of an indifferent man or a toxic family. If they don't respect you from day one, then even if you work yourself to the bone, sacrifice your youth, and back yourself into a corner, All you will receive is endless humiliation and demands. Don't wait until you're pushed into a dead end. Don't wait until you lose the most precious part of your body or lose your soul to jolt awake. Remember that no matter who you were at birth, rich or poor, you deserve to be respected, deserve to be loved, and have the right to sit in the highest seat of your own life. Never kneel before others to beg for scraps of leftover love. A diamond dropped in the mud, no matter how dirty it gets, fundamentally remains a diamond. But you have to stand on your own 2 feet, wash off the mud, and place yourself back on the velvet cushion where you belong. Life is fragile and incredibly short. Letting go of people who are unworthy is not a failure, it is the greatest courage to make way for better things to enter your life. Listening to this very second, I know our heartbeats are connecting. Perhaps somewhere in this story, you also see fragments of your own life or the lives of the people you love. If this story has given you a moment of clarity, a little strength to step forward with resilience, please don't hesitate to hit the like button as a hug of sympathy we give to one another. Feel free to share in the comments about the stories, perspectives, or lessons you've learned after weathering the storms of life. Let's create a community where women dare to speak up, dare to stand up and defend themselves. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so we can meet again in deep discussions, healing journeys, and inspiring stories of rising back up in the next videos. The sky outside has turned into the most breathtaking sunset. Even the fiercest storms must eventually give way to peace. I have closed the doors to the hell of my past, and I hope all of you will also find the keys to unlock your own skies of freedom and happiness. Thank you all for accompanying, listening, and completely understanding this tear-soaked yet fiercely proud story. Warmest regards to you all. May your night be peaceful. Sleep tight. And tomorrow morning, when you wake up, always remember to wear your crown of pride and self-worth.